Hi, and welcome to my channel, Laura's Library Card. So today's book review is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by Victoria E. Schwab, V.E. Schwab. And I did film a midway thoughts and progress feelings clip, so I'm going to be inserting that here. Feel free to use the timestamps in the description to jump around, and I will film my part, me coming back, to discuss my final thoughts and feelings. I am in the middle of multiple books and I need to make little updates so I remember what's going on. And so I am midway through The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. I am right at like 47-ish%, and I've actually been listening to the audiobook. I really am enjoying Julia Whelan's performance of the audiobook. I think that that's been great so far. Otherwise, this book is pretty mid for me so far. I believe this is the first V.E. Schwab I've ever read. And I've been meaning to get around to this one for a long time. And so that's why I finally got around to it. And I am buddy reading this with someone who is actually already done. And so we really haven't had much of a chance to talk about it, but I am just finding it pretty mid. I went into The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue with the understanding that this is a book where we're following Addie as the main character. She has, at some point in the past, made a deal with the devil kind of situation where she can like live forever, but no one remembers her. And then someday someone does, and like how it proceeds. And I think that that's like not a terrible summary or premise or blurb for what has happened so far, but yeah, basically that's all that's happened so far. Is like it's doing what it says on the tin, right? And honestly, she doesn't even meet Henry until the like 20% mark. So the first 20% in particular, I was kind of like, let's go, like let's get going. And I don't know if part of it is my mood and I'm just finding this a little bit like too slow paced for me or something. I think the writing is good. I'm engaged with it. I'm just not like, ooh, can't wait to get back to that. Ooh, got to keep turning pages. Like, can't wait to keep reading. Like, I've picked up multiple other things instead of finishing this book because it's just like mid, you know? So I don't know. I think that like, I want more out of Addie. I think that her personality is able to shine a lot more in the past timeline when we are learning about who she is and like, you know, her early her life before the curse and then like after the curse or the gift or whatever you want to call it. But even then, like I really don't feel like I have gotten a really, other than the fact that like she's a dreamer and she wants to like see beauty in the world and she's mad at the guy, the shadow or whatever. Like I don't really feel like I get a ton from her personality wise. And I've been interested to see how her years of life will have affected her in the present day, and I'm really like not seeing that. Like, she seems neither like jaded nor wise nor like cynical. She just kind of seems to be this balloon that's kind of drifting along, and I'm like, what, you don't have any growth or change over 300 plus years. So I'm a little frustrated with that. I also personally you know, I was a reader growing up. I always felt like, you know, waiting for my letter to a wizard school to show up or to be, you know, part of amazing trials. Not that I would want to die or be really in either of those situations, but like I always thought like something's going to happen, right? Like when will I go through the wardrobe level of situation? And it's only been post college as I've entered the adult world and gotten married and become a real grown up with responsibilities that I've realized that that's probably never going to happen for me. And that's fine. A little depressing, but fine. And I've acknowledged that like my life looks a lot more like, you know, minivan, soccer mom, have a pet and deal with the water heater level of problems, you know? So I think that like it's almost, there's some element here in The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue where Addie is like, I absolutely was willing to sell my literal soul, then marry this man. And I was just kind of like, okay. And like, I get that like you should be able to choose who you love, choose how you make your life, like forge her own path. Like I 100% agree with those sentiments, but there's just this like vibe that's been expressed multiple times in the book that like these people would rather literally die and sell their soul than like have a home, like have a partner and like some kids and like live in a relatively like small life. And I don't know, there's something there that like really annoys me and kind of actually is like turning me off to the book, because I just am like, okay, but like there are joys of like domesticity, and I don't know, I feel like that's an element that I'm not liking. um so yeah, I'm very like mid about it. I'm finding the past timeline to be kind of boring. Like every time that it comes up, it's interrupting the action of what's happening in the current timeline in 2014 that I'm finding more interesting. And so I'm like, oh yeah, back in the 1700s, whatever. And then by the time I finally kind of like resign myself to the fact that we're in this chapter and we're spending a few pages in the past and it's like this different vibe, like the chapter's over, then we're back to the real time. And so most of the time I don't mind having two timelines, but in this book I really feel like the pace is relatively slow, and the timeline jumping back and forth is just making it like that much slower. And so I don't know, it's mid. I'm not hating it. I feel like I've just been like dunking on it for the last 6 minutes, but I'm not hating it, but neither am I terribly invested. So you'll have to stay tuned for how it turns out in the end. I think that this scene that I just finished in the current timeline has like really strong potential for things to be interesting. I think that Henry is an interesting character. You know, I have my suspicions about who, like, not who he is, but sort of what situation he's in to like make him the special one or whatever. So yeah, we shall see how it turns out. But so far, right now, it's kind of middle of the road, and I don't have a ton positive to say about it right now. So I did finish The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, and honestly, overall, I still found it to be pretty mid throughout the whole thing. I did rewatch and edit. You're welcome. My clip from my previous thoughts and midway thoughts and feelings, and a lot of that still remained true throughout. I mentioned the frustration of anti-domesticity commentary, and that sort of continued. And later, it kind of developed even stronger into feeling a little bit like neither Henry nor Addie were characters who were interested in growing up or taking responsibilities or kind of just like developing a life in a way that just didn't really like land very well for me as the old lady that I am right now. So I think this book has a lot of themes that are presented. I didn't feel like those themes were super explored to my satisfaction. You know, there's a lot of discussion about what do you want out of your life? What would you literally be willing to sell your soul for? And I thought that was interesting, but like I didn't really maybe because of the consequences of how Luke made these deals, I didn't feel that there was really reflection or discussion from either Henry or Addie about like, was it worth it? What did they learn or gain from doing these deals? What would they do differently? That kind of stuff, which I felt was like one of the main points of the book. There was also a lot of discussion around art and humanity, and I think that in a lot of ways, to be human is to experience the passage of time and to have conception of mortality. And I felt like, and I sort of feel that art is humans that are trying to explore pain, beauty, love, just human experiences. And to some extent, Luke taking Addie out of time kind of did strip her of her humanity in some ways. And I don't know, I liked the ideas that art, it could be the way that Addie could make an impact. But as one reviewer kind of pointed out, I felt that Addie had an opportunity to implant memories or, ideas, or implant ideas, because ideas are wilder than memories. But like the only ideas that Addie ever manages to impart are ideas of herself. Like there's not ideas about her own thoughts and feelings. And I didn't feel that she grew very much as a character over the course of 300 years. I would think that she would gain wisdom or at least at the very least skills other than languages, I guess. I wanted her to pull an Edward Cullen and have gone to medical school and I mean, I guess that probably would have been kind of difficult with her curse, but learned how to play a piano or something like that. So I don't know. I think that the themes surrounding art and human and what it means to be human and sort of art as the exploration of humanity were interesting in that the fact that they were brought up, but I was underwhelmed with the exploration of that topic, and I was frustrated with Addie just being like, but life is beautiful and that's what I want to experience. Where's the meaning? Like, what is she taking away from this other than like it's new? like yeah. And there was an undertone here that had to do with Luke, the shadow guy. Like, he name drops throughout the book Beethoven, Shakespeare, etc. And the implication is that he has made deals with these people, and so therefore some of the greatest artists throughout history really had to sell their soul, sell their humanity to obtain the skills or to have the inspiration of art. And so it almost like removes art and it separates art and humanity. And so I don't know, I felt like there's stuff there to think about, and I like, my brain likes to think about things and chew over philosophical discussions, but I just didn't feel that it was super well explored in this book. And I didn't ever feel like, even though Addie is she loves encountering artists, and she loves later kind of referencing how she's been captured or seen by these various artists, but like she doesn't really discuss with Henry or have a perspective over like who those artists were, like what their work was doing, like she really is literally just like, oh, it's about me, and look, I did make an impact. And I was kind of like, can you be any more like self-centered? Like, why are you not learning about like art in general and experiencing it and enjoying it from the perspective of this form of media, as opposed to like, there I am, you can spot my little constellation of freckles. So yeah, I also did note, I thought it was weird throughout the whole thing that she only ever goes from like Europe to America. I was like, where's the opportunity to explore any of Asia or Africa or South America? And that is definitely a huge component that I saw in some reviews today when I was looking, where there was a lot of people who were like, this book is super white and very Eurocentric, and there's basically no mention of people of color, and that's a real issue. And yeah, that was a pretty glaring. I don't know, I felt like, while this was a historical fiction in that we get a lot of history, Addie is not really present in that history and bringing anything to that history. It almost feels like she accepts that she has this curse and that she can't, like, it almost is like she doesn't feel that she can make any impact, even because she can't be remembered. And yet her whole goal is to cause an impact anyway through art. I don't know. I was just kind of, overall, I found this reading experience frustrating. I thought the writing was nice. There was a few turns of phrase, but sometimes it did get kind of repetitive, and I was not engaged throughout the whole thing. I thought the whole thing was kind of like, let's go. I want something to happen. Like, there's really not that much plot. I didn't like Luke being as like human as he was. To me, I want my gods or powerful beings to be a lot more other, and I didn't feel that the ending was really like worthwhile. I didn't feel that there was enough emotional development between Addie and Henry for me to believe that they had fallen in love. I didn't feel that either of them were a terribly strong personality types, or like I didn't really understand why they would fall in love with each other per se. And yeah, it's like, I felt like Addie was sort of almost too easily able to like walk away at the end. And, I didn't think that it was like a twist or a huge surprise that she managed to rework Henry's deal. So I was just kind of overall pretty meh. And towards the end, I was a little bit more intrigued. I wanted to kind of see how it was all going to resolve, but I also was not loving it. So that's my unfortunate review of The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I saw a review that called it The Monotonous Life of Addie LaRue, and I was like, oh, damn, true. So yeah, I think I'm gonna land on just like a 2.5 or a 3 star, just kind of like Yeah, I read that, but it didn't hit me the way it hit other people for reasons that I can't quite put my fingers on. So, or the reasons I've stated here. So, let me know why I'm wrong and why you absolutely adored this book, and if I should give V.E. Schwab another try. So, let me know down in the comments, and thanks so much for watching. I will see you next time. Bye.